Hello, it's Clemmy from the NARM Clinic, and today I want to talk about vitamin D. Vitamin D deficiency is something that's coming up a lot in my clinic at the moment, and I've also noticed lots of articles in the media about it. So I wanted to write an article and do a video and give you a bit of a lowdown on what it is and why it's important. So vitamin D is actually completely different to most other vitamins in the fact that it's actually a steroid hormone. So it's produced from cholesterol when our skin is exposed to the sun, and that's why it's often known as the sunshine vitamin. Now, because we live in somewhere like the UK where the weather is pretty rubbish, particularly at the moment, sun exposure actually rarely provides us with the vitamin D that we need. And that means that we need to look at getting it from other sources. Now, we can get it in small amounts from our diet, and in some instances, it may be appropriate for us to supplement as well. So there's only, from a dietary perspective, a handful of foods that contain good amounts of vitamin D, and vitamin D deficiency is actually pretty common in the UK. So according to statistics, approximately 20% of people have low vitamin D levels in the UK, and in inflammatory bowel disease, so people with Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, the prevalence is even higher at around 30 to 40%. And in my clinic, I have found, as I've said, that the prevalence has been quite high recently, and I think those statistics are actually quite conservative, and I think the prevalence might actually be much higher than that. So vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin, and that means that it dissolves in fats and oils and can be stored in our body. Now, there's two main dietary forms. One is vitamin D3, and that's found in some animal foods, so things like oily fish and egg yolks. And vitamin D2, which is found in some plants, things like mushrooms and also in yeasts. So of those two forms, vitamin D3 from animal sources seems to be almost twice as effective at increasing blood levels of vitamin D compared to D2. So for those on a vegan diet, you may be at slightly greater risk of deficiency. So looking at vitamin D and why we need it, what's the function in the body? So it has lots and lots of functions in the body, but I'm going to note three important ones. So first of all, it works with calcium and other nutrients to help keep our bones strong. Two, it helps to support our immune function. And linked to that as well, number three, is it can help to reduce inflammation. So what happens when we don't have enough? What are the symptoms of vitamin D deficiency? So one of those is frequent colds and infections. Also fatigue and tiredness is another one. Bone pain and muscle pain, hair loss is another, and it may even be able to impact our mood. So we've all heard of SAD, seasonal affective disorder, and that's a type of depression that comes and goes in that seasonal pattern. The reason why we think that it might be linked to vitamin D is that vitamin D and serotonin, our happy hormone, are really linked. So we think that symptoms of SAD might actually be in part due to the changing levels of vitamin D when we're exposed to less sun during those kind of autumn and winter months, and that may actually affect the levels of serotonin in our brain, which can make us sad. Now, in inflammatory bowel disease, lower vitamin D levels are associated with increased disease activity and increased inflammation, but may also be linked to more frequent flare-ups. So it really is something that we need to focus on and make sure that we are noting if that's a deficiency and then working on correcting that. So what can we do about it? So Public Health England recommend that adults and children over the age of 1 should have around 10 micrograms of vitamin D every day, and that means that some people may want to consider a supplement, particularly, as I said, during those kind of autumn winter months, so October to April. Now, if you suspect that you might be deficient, so perhaps you're experiencing some of those symptoms above, or if you have inflammatory bowel disease, then what's really important is that you have a test to check whether you're deficient. Now, this can be done really easily with your GP, and it's just a simple blood test. Or I can help do that and arrange a nurse to come to your home and we can go through the test results together. Now, the reason why I say it's really important to test is that we need to, one, find out if you have a deficiency, and if you don't, where those symptoms might be coming from. But if you do have a deficiency, we need to gauge the severity of that deficiency and then supplement accordingly to correct it effectively. So what can you do if you find out you are deficient in vitamin D? So a little bit of nice winter sun will do the trick, so maybe a plane ticket to the Caribbean. But for a slightly cheaper option, we can, as I said, get some vitamin D through the foods that we eat. So oily fish, eggs, and then some fortified foods as well. But as I said, we often need to supplement. So the two brands that I often recommend in clinic, one is called Better You, and they do a vitamin D3 and K2 spray. And the other one is Nutri Advanced. I really like their vitamin D3 and K2 drops. Now you'll notice both of those, they're in the vitamin D3 form, which is good, and they also have K2 in there with them. Now there is a reason for that. So vitamin K2 works with vitamin D to help transport calcium into our bones. So vitamin K2 helps to regulate calcium absorption, and it basically makes sure that calcium is being used in the right place in the bodies and prevents it from building up anywhere where it's not supposed to be, like in our arteries, for example. So coming back to supplementation, if you are deficient, a supplement of 10 micrograms a day, as suggested as a maintenance dose by Public Health England and the NHS, actually won't potentially make that much difference. You may need to supplement at a slightly higher dose for a short period of time just to help correct that deficiency. But it's really, really important that you only ever supplement at higher doses than is recommended on the packet under the supervision of either your GP or a nutrition professional, because vitamin D can actually be toxic in high doses. So if you think you might be deficient, then please go to your GP and book an appointment, or as I said, get in touch with me. I can arrange a nurse visit to your home and we can go through the results together and make sure that you're doing everything that you can to correct it. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed that. Any questions, let me know, and we'll see you again soon.